Uh, Jesus, hails Jesus,
Uh-huh.
is Hail Zeus, Jupiter,
Yeah, I don't buy it.
King of Lightning. Hail Zeus.
And we're starting the show.
I was like,
What's going on?
what's going on? How you doing, Josue?
Oh, I'm just chilling. It's a
Feeling
good day.
feeling Rico?
Yeah, suave all over the
Rico
place.
Suave all over the place. I am Rick, your host today on the Rixican Show. Uh, I was thinking about the military days, so we'll talk about some stuff. And never let a medic drive your vehicle. We were at the range slinging lead, and the medic's like, we were in MRAPs, and he was like, "I want to drive. I want to drive." And we're like, "Okay." Anyway, we had in all 3 seasons that day, and he hits a corner a little fast, and MRAPs are heavy. They're like
Yeah.
35,000 pounds, and they're tall. And he goes up like on two wheels.
Jeez.
And when it comes back down, it begins to whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And then it was into like this like 6 foot deep ditch.
Oh, dude.
And they tried to pull it out. They bring a wrecker out. It took a little finessing to get this thing out. It's just so heavy. The winches are like,
Yeah.
couldn't get this out. And I was like, never let a medic drive your vehicle.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, don't try to Tokyo drift an MRAP.
they're heavy.
Yeah.
They're built tall, right? So when IEDs go off, there's right space. You need
Yeah.
time and distance to let things disperse. And they're V-shaped on the bottom, so they kind of can deflect things that go boom. What's the sound of artillery? Uh, boom, boom. So they're designed a certain way, and anyway, they're just anyway. This guy took a corner fast, and we were sliding right into the ditch. Um, one thing you may not realize about military vehicles is they're, and I don't know if you've noticed this in the Marine Corps, but the vehicles are garbage. They
Yeah, they're
all
not great.
they all break down.
Yeah.
Every like I get in my car, I don't check the oil, I don't check nothing, and it goes and goes until a light comes on.
Yeah.
Some of you are more responsible than I am, but I'm like, I'm in go mode and I'm like, point
Yeah.
A to point B, don't mess with me. And it works
Yeah.
for months and months and months and months. We'd be in the motor pool every month, motor pool Mondays, checking oil, and like without fail, the thing won't start.
Yeah.
Or it's this, it's that. Like all these things are going wrong with them all the time. And maybe you could say, oh, it's because they sit too long.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Well,
Maybe they sit
maybe.
for weeks and months at a time. Maybe so. But I'm like, but my vehicle starts every single day
Yep.
without fail. And then we got all this cool gadgetry and whatever, that's complicated. And I'm like, my cell phone does what these 10, 20 units do and more.
Yeah.
It takes pictures. So it's like,
I can take selfies.
crazy. But from the Humvees to the
Yeah.
then they go into armored Humvees and then the MRAPs and we spend millions of dollars just maintaining this stuff. And a lot of them are very basic functioning things.
Yep.
I mean, we've blown we so we're driving HETs, the heavy equipment vehicle, hauling tanks. 48 wheels, folks. 48 wheels. It's crazy. And the trailer wheels turn and pivot. We call them bogies, and they turn and pivot so we can get serpentine through the checkpoints because a regular truck
Yeah, you can't
can't do it. Yeah, they won't make it. So we're like, you turn and the trailer like slinging with you the way you're turning, like surfing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it swings a little wide, and these guys would clip cars. Like, don't get close when the trailer's swinging; it'll swing.
Yeah.
Hauling tanks. I think the smallest load I ever hauled was like a golf cart or a gator on this thing, and we're like, we haul tanks,
Yeah.
and we're like trying to chain down. I mean, you got chain links like this big, trying to chain down the chain link's bigger than the gator.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to, this is crazy. But they're like, the mission comes first.
Oh yeah.
They need these gators moved. And I was like, they got regular flatbed trucks. Why do the guys that haul tanks have to go and why you got to embarrass us? You know, it's like
Yeah.
putting you know, a Hot Wheels vehicle on top of your car, in the
Oh
back of
yeah.
your truck. You're like, I'm towing a vehicle.
Yo.
It's embarrassing, embarrassing. But I did notice a lot of things break. I mean, we had Caterpillar engines in
Oh
these
yeah.
things, and we would blow them. And they're like, how did you blow this Caterpillar engine? I'm like, I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah, it seems like every time you go out to start a Humvee, you got to try at least 3 of them before you get one that actually starts
what
up.
was it? I might be wrong. It was like a Caterpillar 18 engine. It was, runs a dozer,
Yeah, yeah.
and but they would go out in the field and we'd be going up these hills that are fairly steep, and this thing would just be like, we'd like 5 miles an hour, just go. It's just, but we broke everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and I was like, man, our vehicles, enjoy what you have.
Yeah.
And we go on mission like overseas. We'd be like, hey, we got 6 tanks to pull up. We're sending you with 7 trucks. And sure enough, one of the trucks would not make it. And
Yep.
and we spent more time loading. You got to put the tractor, the the engine part on a trailer, and then you got the trailer that we're trying to load on a trailer in the middle of the desert, and it was taking like 45 minutes to load a trailer on a trailer because they have these ramps, and you had like 2 inches on each side of the ramps that it's going up, and it was like, don't fall. And then it blow a
Jeez.
brake chamber and like, everybody stop, drag it off, drop it down. There are like hydraulic stuff going on, and it was crazy. Anyway, I asked the leadership, I go, what can we do to get wider ramps? And they're like, Rick, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you're wasting your time. So I was like, we got 2 inches for these tires to roll up with a brake chamber in the middle. I was like, what can we do? And I was like, can we get extra ramps? But they're kind of heavy and awkward, whatever. Um, so my leadership was like, you're wasting your time. But I'm like, we're in the middle of the desert. Things go boom. There's lead flying around. And
Yeah.
I don't like to sit out there for 45 minutes being a target.
Yeah. That's scary.
And no one seems to care. It's just, it's the mission first, right?
Yep.
It, so eventually, after I got no luck going through my command, I called the manufacturer. The guy is the M1000,
Yeah.
the trailer. So I called the manufacturer, and that's just the person I am. Even though I was told no, I was like, I just got to be heard, and I'll let it go. It's just my nature. So I I called the manufacturer, and and they were like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they were like, "Why do you have to load a trailer on a trailer? What's wrong with our trailers?" And I was like, "The trailers do okay. We blow tires and whatever, but I was like, it's the tractor pulling the trailer that goes down, and we need to put a trailer on a trailer." And he says, "Well, why don't you use a crane at the port?" And I go, "We're in the middle of the desert."
Hmm.
So, yeah, they can load them and stuff, but like there's no crane.
Yeah.
I'm 7 hours away, middle of nowhere.
From the nearest crane.
Things go boom, and I'm like, we're out running around trying not to, have lead touch us.
Yeah.
And football, like I can only juke so much,
Yeah.
and wave and smile at these guys on the hill, like, hey, I hope you're friendly.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he began to realize, oh, this is a thing that we didn't know as a manufacturer was even an issue. And he says, we have a equipment review in 6 months. So we talked for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I talked to some of the other guys, and they would give me some things that they felt could be better for them. Anyway, they come out with a new M1 Abrams, and I don't know if it's connected or not. 5, 6 years later, I see a picture of the new trailer, and the ramps are like 6, 8 inches wider. I haven't been up close to touch it, and I was like, finally. Basically, that means they could load the thing in 15 minutes
Yeah.
rather than 45. And I was like, that could be life-saving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if it was because of me or not.
It was all because of Rick.
It's because of me. And I would have loved to got paid for it, but I was like, saving life was more important to me than getting paid. Uh, a lot of manufacturers have their design team, and you could call them with a great idea. Because I did make a few phone calls and say, "Hey, I got an idea for a plate carrier.
Yeah.
Takes the load off of your shoulders and puts it on your hips. I got a design I've come up with, and a lot of that's because I had a back, broke my back in Iraq and running around the plate carrier with a broken back. I was like, this freaking
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
I've been on a rooftop for like 45 minutes, shrugging, um, sweating in the sandbox. And I was like, I was like, would we be more efficient if I didn't have to, shrug that? How do I,
Yeah.
you go backpacking, it's off your shoulders like half an inch, an inch. You
Yeah.
got your sissy belt.
Yeah.
It's the concept. You could almost visualize it. I'm explaining it to you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
could you get your sissy belt and put it off your shoulders a little bit? And I was like, would that method work? And now you're only shrugging the weapon and not
Yeah. Not the whole
40
weight.
pounds
Yeah.
plus the weapon plus all all your rounds. And so I was like, I got a concept. Nobody listened to me. I was like, I was like, can I get an non-disclosure agreement, NDA, this and that? They're like, no, no, we got a design team. We don't need your input, whatever. Like nobody cared. I was like, man, you know, and I was like, how many injuries in the military are spinal?
A lot.
I was like,
A ton.
now
Yeah.
it's not going to save your knees
Yeah.
or your hips. Those are still going to get compressed. But I was like, if you could take it off your shoulders somewhat, you know, in some scenarios you can reduce that load. And I was like, I had a radiologist looking at my X-rays for funsies a couple days ago because I broke my ribs and whatever, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, you're screwed up. They're supposed to be like even between the joint," and they're like, you know, all crazy. And I never even noticed because I just dealt with the broken part, but all the
Yeah.
other stuff, I was like, "Oh, there is some." I always get these little twinges and stuff in there, and I was like, "Oh, never, it's just life."
Why does your back look like a Jenga set?
One more. And it, anyway, the point, I guess, to all this is some of us out there are go getters, and you need to be heard. And once I gave it, like I gave the trailer thing away, I was like, I'm done. I did as much as I could,
Yeah.
and the new vehicle has it. If it saves lives, I did the best I could with what I got.
Yeah.
And it's not like I get to be like, hey, Mr. General, I have an idea. Do you think he's got like time for this? Not like there's another thing in Virginia. They do like some creative processes with military inventions, and I was directed there, and they're like, yeah, can you come in 4 weeks? We have a convention. You come down, and I was like, well, they're like, do you have a patent? I go, I am a soldier. Like, do you think I've got patent money floating around? Do you think I got 10 grand to design a patent?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pay, bills and feed my family. I'm like, this is crazy. And they're like, well, uh, if you fly down here, we'd love to talk to you about your stuff. And I was like, um, who's paying for that? And they go, oh, you would have to. And I was like, and I have to go ask for leave. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys really have no intention of talking to the grunt
No.
at all.
No.
I get it. There's always a lot of ideas, but there needs to be a better system just to be like, here you go, here's a concept. And even when I made phone calls, they're like trying to find a department for me to talk to. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's not hard. It's a suggestion box like that.
yeah,
Come
yeah,
on. Like,
but it's like they have like uniform clothing,
yeah, yeah,
thing, and they have some stuff set up that they're, oh, we're happy to listen to you, or you could make a suggestion. But there's other areas that are like,
yeah.
there's nothing there for it. And of course, I'm the guy that there's nothing there for. Do you ever feel that way? There's nothing there for you.
There's no room for Rick here.
Yeah. The ideas could be garbage.
Yeah.
That's okay. You just get it out. And if maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. Some of the ideas you can't patent it.
Yeah.
Like a sissy pad, they make those already.
Yeah.
Adding a backpack with plate carriers, plate carrier in it, they kind of make that already. And you're just
Yeah.
adding the straps and adding a plate on the front. It's You can't patent it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some things that you do design wise, like if you added certain suspension supports in certain areas, that's new, maybe, but
But yeah,
other than
but
that,
they're happy to be like, oh, just give it to us. And I
yeah,
was like, well, what do I get out of it? And I was after a point, I was like, well, screw you guys.
yeah.
Now, if they probably can listen to it, go, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And you'll start seeing them come out. This will take the weight off your spine and
Yeah.
reduce injuries in the military by 50% and less payouts in medical. And blah, blah, I was like, oh, go down that rabbit hole if you want. But there's a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like any of my ideas were not like ingenious new ideas. Widening a ramp,
Yeah.
genius. No, it's just like there's a problem, make it what bigger, a plate carrier backpack system. They make both of those. I'm just using synthesis and stealing ideas from multiple places and merging it into something
Yeah.
potentially new or creative. Um, that's something I'm kind of one of my talents in life. To use synthesis. We call it creative because that's, it sounds good, but it's synthesis. I'm an idea thief. I mix and match all the pieces and then try to make something new.
All right. So I'm never telling you any of my ideas from now on.
Oh, you know that one thing you told me? I made it better.
Oh, damn it. I knew I should have kept that one closer to the vest.
Yeah. At the same time, they didn't listen to me, so I'm not listening to you.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't listen to me either.
But there's always ideas and things, and anyway, I created a few things, but it's like it is what it is, and some things are just the timing's not right, or it's like I I don't know how to start a clothing line. It's
Yeah.
like how do I make backpacks and plate carriers? Like I have a concept, but it's like some of these things are you know you get into patterns and they're like, oh, we can make your prototype, but then that costs 15,000.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, that hurts too. But we can design it.
Yeah, and then you get into production and like supply of materials, you're dealing with distributors. That's
Yeah,
a whole thing.
but the guy's already doing it. Yeah, but they're like, just give it to us.
Yeah.
Their little greedy
We
fingers are
already
like,
got the system.
if it's good, we'll take it from you. But yeah, there was no love. They have their design team. They don't want to be threatened. And it's like when I talked about going to see that engine, that guy had 7 moving parts.
Yeah.
And when he talked to Ford and those guys, they're like, we've been making engines for 200 years. What could you possibly teach us? There's a lot of that attitude as an outsider.
Yeah.
So, and then they take my beautiful idea and put it on the shelf because they're like, we want more spinal pain for our plate carriers. Yeah, because the
Yeah, you guys don't need back.
big pharma wants to sell us more ibuprofen in the
Yeah.
military. Why would you take that away from
How are
us?
we supposed to get these guys addicted to pharmaceuticals if we don't break them first?
There's some Advil, ibuprofen. Take a knee, drink water. So anyway, that's my little morning thing. But yeah, we've driven several vehicles in the military and some of the larger road vehicles. So that's my bragging rights.
Yep.
It stands like a foot taller than a big rig. So we drive by
Yeah.
them and look down on them.
Yeah. Yeah. The 7 tons were fun.
Yeah. But they're slower because they can drill
Oh,
down.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
dude.
downside to it. All right. I got my notes out. Next on the list. Oh, the school levy. So in our town, we got a school levy and it failed, and there's some, I don't know, misuse, corruption, whatever you want to call it. And somebody came to me and go, there's people mad at you that you're voting no on the levy. And I said, I never said I was voting no.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to vote yes. I'm kind of undecided. I'm like, I don't know, but it's like people are judging you. And I'm like, well, it is what it is. Let them judge. I'm not judging anybody how they vote. I'm like,
Yeah.
how you vote is how you vote. Um, it's to me, it's a double-edged sword. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, how you vote isn't anybody else's business.
Yeah.
It should be a personal thing, and if people are gonna like get on your ass because you're voting a certain way, then
Well,
like, that's your problem. That's not my.
I heard from a snitch. A snitch was like, hey,
Oh,
they're I hate to call him a snitch, but it was just informed. Snitches get stitches. How dare you to me? But like, it's just interesting. I was like, they're mad at me. Like, I do ask questions, and I'd
yeah,
be like, hey, I'm all pro audit. I'm like, I even found a free auditor for him.
yeah,
The guy's good. he's been trying to audit the school district for like 10 years and they keep denying him, but like, I gotta do it for free. But
Well,
like,
if he's gonna do it for free, I
they
don't
may
see
not
anything
want
else.
an outside audit. Heaven forbid they find something that's questionable, and
Oh
then
yeah,
it puts blame on somebody, and then I get that too, but um, and they have cleaned up a lot. But yeah, it's like matching funds. There's all sorts of chaos
yeah,
there. Anyway, I won't judge you how you vote.
yeah. No, I mean that's dumb. that's, that's really dumb. Like,
Yeah, I've seen both sides. It's like, what do you do? I'm kind of, you know,
yeah. Well, I mean, they should if somebody's willing to do the audit for free and come in from the outside and kind of take an objective look at it, I think that's something they should be willing to accept. I mean, they did say
they
they
can
were.
they can audit the auditor to make sure he's qualified. I'm okay with that
Yeah, yeah,
too.
absolutely. Make sure the guy stacks up and he's good at what he does.
Uh,
But if you're really trying to be the voice of transparency going forward and gain the trust of the people back and not have your levies fail,
it's
maybe that's a good step in the right direction.
I mean, it's looking like a coin toss. It might pass this
Yeah.
round. But anyway, uh, but I do put myself out there publicly, and it is a cost of saying things.
Yeah.
And even if I say things that or I may not like, I still try to like say it as unbiased as I can. I go, these are the pros and cons. I try to break it down. I go, you might save $500. It might cost you $500 a year. And it's like, I
Yeah. Yeah.
save the kids. Old lady needs to, has fixed income. Like, how do you justify all that? And
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to individual thing. But anyway, voting is a tough thing, and our society is kind of, you know, I mean, look at the election. Look at it. Look at it now.
Yeah.
People are still upset. People are shocked, and we're going to jump into that right now. Um, let's look at my questions here. I saw a little quote. It made me laugh today. It says, uh, "When you find fraud, and someone yells stop, that's who's doing the fraud." And I think a lot of people relate to that because you have this DOGE thing going on, and there's a lot of questions about it. So I was actually surprised by this, but I learned that DOGE is a department of the government. Rick, how can that be? He just was president. Congress has to vote and make the
Yeah.
department. How is this possible? So if you read the executive order, ding, 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 ding. Hello. Uh,
Reading is good, folks.
DOGE is a department of the government, not because of the executive order. Well, partly because of the executive order, but it's a repurposed department. So you have a department uh, that's kind of going do 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 do,
Yeah.
and it's like, hey, let's put this in this department and let it loose.
Yep.
And the department name was kind of, I think, kind of fits. So the executive order, section 3, uh, is called the U.S. Digital Service Department. I'm like, that kind of fits. Digital service audits. Oh, maybe,
It's
I
vague
guess
enough to.
digital service audit. I think the last time it was messed with, I don't know, you'd have to look into it, but Ronald Reagan or something. So, I mean, it's been sitting around for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Doing nothing, taking taxpayer money.
and
Yeah.
so it is a temporary adjustment for 18 months. It ends July 4th, 2026. And this is why they can't stop it.
Yeah.
If it
Loopholes.
if it was just Elon and President Trump going, we're going to do this and this and this without a department, I think it'd be harder for them to do. But
Yeah.
because it is an actual department, they can't stop it.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that was already there that they just repurposed for something useful. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you know,
So something to think about. It is a department. I was like, it is?
yeah,
Ooh, juicy.
yeah. And so all these people yelling about how Elon Musk is unelected and he shouldn't be part of our government, and
Yeah.
well, he was appointed to a department that's legit and has been there for a long time.
This is why they can't stop it. Now,
Yep.
I do get the understanding, and I've been discussing this a lot. I'm totally cool with the audit part. Like, hey, audit them all you want. In a year and a half, when this is all said and done, when they disband, I really hope they leave us in a good position because people do have concerns like, hey, are they going to line their pockets with it? Now, I don't think Elon's going to be lining his pockets from the audit side.
No.
If maybe being inside the circle, he could get a contract or something. His will probably be more legitimate. I think is how he will benefit, or get a contract, stocks goes up, he's happy. Uh, I think that's how he's going to win on this. But yes, I do see that after all this audit's done, I hate to call him a dictator, but will the dictator stop and be like, I give it back, like the gladiators, he's dying. He's like, give it back to the people. It's like, will they do that? And so
Yeah.
that's the question for me. Once they get everything adjusted and do what needs to be done and root it out, will they peacefully go,
Yeah,
we're
well,
back at the
I think they
basics.
kind of have to. If they only
Yeah.
repurposed it for a specific amount of time, then they only have that specific amount of time to go through Congress and actually make it a real thing from then on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So they kind of have to, because they have a time limit set in the executive order. Um, and also, I don't really think Trump has an interest in staying beyond his 4 years. I don't I
These
don't
are
see it.
concerns people have. The other thing is, how many things have we done that were temporary that are still here? Social Security is one of
Mm,
those. It was temporary,
yeah,
still here. So there are concerns, and would another executive order? We need another 18-month extension. Like
well,
you
I
just don't know. But
mean,
at the moment, it has a termination date, July 4th, 2026. I do think they'll ease up once they get everything back to basics. I do
yeah,
think they'll ease up, but you do have to ask questions. What are the checks and balances in this as they go? Um, and that's okay. It's okay to ask questions.
yeah,
We are just observing. We don't have a lot of control in this, um, but it has to be asked. You got to be able to go, okay, this seems pretty cool. Cut the
yeah.
fat.
I
I'm
mean, they
all
did
about cut the
loophole it
fat.
once. Them loopholing it again would not be that hard or that much of a stretch.
Yeah.
So I get the
So
concern, but
so
also I don't see it.
we just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part with this. You go, well, there's a lot going on, a lot of no checks and balances in this. Will they let go of the reins when they're done? Hopefully they will. But you still got to ask the question. In the meantime, there's both sides. People are panicking and people are really excited about it. Uh, Personally, cutting the fat, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think
At the same time, I'm like, what happens if you keep the fat? Like I don't think with being what do they call it? Like shockingly transparent is like
yeah.
blowing people's minds right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot more transparency definitely needs to happen. I think this is a good thing. It'll definitely put a lot of eyes in places that have needed to have eyes for a while.
Now,
Um,
these places are audited every year.
yeah,
So their audits are not the same as what we think. Basically, they're like, "Hey, our budget balanced."
yeah,
That's their audits.
yeah,
It's not necessarily digging deep into, you know, why. Or we can jump into this right now.
yeah,
Uh, so you got y- why did all these celebrities get paid? You got 6 million in
yeah,
sushi. Is that code for something? I mean, that's everybody gets sushi there for free for the rest of their life. I don't know what's going on. 600 million in sushi. Chelsea Clinton, 85 million. Angelina Jolie, 20 million. Well, I know you got like, why are these people being paid?
yeah,
Because they need to shake hands so the world's like, oh,
yeah. Well, I mean
here's a friendly face.
that kind of would explain why all these celebrities were at these Kamala Harris rallies.
Yeah, they got paid too.
You know?
That was, I assume, paid differently.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Campaign versus
Some of
other
it might
things.
have been USAID. I would think most of it was probably a campaign because she did spend a lot on her
Yeah.
campaign.
But someone referred to it as the devil's checkbook, and that's awesome. They're
Yes.
like, all these people getting paid from the devil's checkbook.
That is a great descriptor.
And I think the biggest thing for me, and you're seeing this movement, you're going to see it more and more
Oh yeah.
as the shocking trans, this like super transparency. There's a word
No.
for it. We'll get it. Comes out. or the more we notice the devil's checkbook,
Yeah.
people are like, why am I paying taxes?
Yeah.
When you tally up all this stuff together, they're like, you can just hand each US citizen $1 million
Yep.
and be like, why am I paying taxes?
Yeah.
I'd be happy. Yes. Yeah. If you're anyway, you're only charging 2.5 interest for $1 million.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, no, well, once you see what all this money's being used for, it doesn't really make sense. Like, and it goes back to something I was saying earlier, in a conversation that I was having. You know what I mean? Like the system we have now, it essentially forces people to pay taxes before they even see part of their money at a high rate. Like we're almost paying, I think on average it's like 36% of what people make they pay, and they have to pay it, otherwise there's legal consequence. You know what I mean? It's the invisible handcuffs that we have around our necks, or well, not our necks, but you get the you get what I'm going with. So yeah, it's the invisible shackle we have, and it's when you look at what it's being used for, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You start to ask, why am I doing this? You know, a lot of the money has been linked back to child trafficking stuff, and a lot of it's been linked to paying all these people for campaign donations, stuff like that, and a lot of stuff you don't even believe in. So why am I being forced to shell money out of my pocket for all of these things, a lot of which are illegal, and I would go to jail for? Where's the sense in it? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
Legalize theft and
yeah, yeah,
the mob, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Yeah, the word is, I got it written down here, radical transparency,
yes, yeah.
radical audits.
I think
That's
that's what we need. Yeah, for sure.
radical audits. Yeah, I mean, you got a Democrat leader, Mark Warner. He says, "quote We fund things undercover."
Yeah,
They're like, hey, we're supposed to have some secrets,
yeah.
right?
Well, maybe we start lifting the covers, bro.
Yeah. So I didn't dig into this too much, other than the uh little blip on it, but it says House GOP wants to split bills into pieces for vote. This is kind of huge.
Yeah,
You know how they make a bill, they stuff a bunch of pork in it?
yeah, dude. The omnibus is cancer.
Yeah.
And they always have a really like innocuous name to it, like the
Yeah.
the bill for certain responsibility, or we're going to help these people, but really like half of it goes to Ukraine and to help fund terrorism. Like I don't know.
Yeah. But what's cool about this, if it works out this way, I don't know if they're doing it or they're talking about it, but it breaks bills into pieces and they
Yep.
vote on each section individually.
Yep.
So if they're like $10,000 for archery for, whatever, and they'll be like, yeah or nay, and then you have your main bill, but they'll go through the pork
Yeah.
individually and vote on it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you also get to see which politicians are voting for what.
Yeah.
They're like, why does that guy keep voting for archery?
Yeah.
you know, what is you know, this guy
Yeah,
was
no,
fighting for these rights.
I think that's very important for a few reasons. Like, I think, first of all bills should be single issue, because then you know
Yes.
exactly what is being voted on, and also you have the transparency on who's voting for what. And then if you combine that with who they're getting money from, you can really see, okay, this person's backing these bills all the time because they're getting funding from these people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we need to see that. I think the people are tired of having the wool pulled over their eyes. You know what I mean? We're
We are. And a lot of us are aware of it,
Yep.
but we feel like we're kind of helpless.
Yeah.
Like, we've been voting for 50 years. We've been voting hundreds of years. And like, is it getting better?
Yep.
We're like, no. And years and years ago, I was like, if I ever did a political thing, my whole thing would be like back to basics.
Yep.
Let's just get rid of everything, bring it small again,
Yep.
and and regrow it. It's very difficult for government to shrink.
Yeah.
Very difficult. All these agencies get audited every year. They get an audit, but it's
Yeah.
more, I think, of a balanced budget audit
Yeah.
than it is what exactly are you doing.
Yeah. Who's doing the audit? What kind of information are they looking
Yeah,
for? How deep are they diving? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you don't know that.
Like,
If they just get a check mark and be like, okay, you're good.
And these problems are everywhere,
Yeah.
local, state, federal, and you're going to see this movement sprinkle down.
Yep.
Um, Ted Maxter, he had like an explanation. He's like, and we're going to look into the politicians here soon enough. But he's like, many politicians, their only source of income is to create hate,
Yeah.
to divide us, to make us fight. Democrat, Republican, we're fight because we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
I say it over and over again. In a simplistic way, we all want housing, we all want food, we all want, the dream of, having what we need plus a little more so we can enjoy, life. We all want the
Yeah.
same thing. And then somebody gets up there and shakes the jar. They're paid to be like, hey, you know that guy over there? Like, we all have equal rights does not mean equality for every single person. I have my deficits.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes it's embarrassing that I'm like, I can't remember names to save my life. And it's somebody I know super well. I'd be like, name, name, name. And then one day I'm like, oh, sway. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like struggling to get it out. Like, it's just the way I have my deficits. Like, we all have, it's like equal rights, but life's not fair.
Yeah.
And, but I think we all want to be taken care of in some type of way. And some people are going to excel, it's just like sports teams. Some win, some lose. It's life, but you have, you know, equal rights. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we confuse that with everyone deserves the same thing,
Yeah. It's
same
confusing equality
opportunity.
for equity. Like equality means like you essentially have everybody has the right to try equally toward whatever end goal they want to meet.
Yeah.
Whereas equity ensures a certain level of outcomes and results no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but people have gotten it twisted around because all these, politicians, media personalities have changed the definition of things and they've tried to redefine things and make things a little bit more communist. I don't know.
Yeah. So with my deficits, whatever, ADHD, ADD, whatever you want to call it, tunnel vision, I have my thing going on. When I was in the military overseas, I had an issue focusing. I'm
Yeah.
hauling tanks. And I was like, it's not good for me not to be able to. I drive by Braille and I'm daydreaming off. I'm like, I need to focus on the road. I was like, I'm having trouble doing this. So I go see the doc. He's like, oh, you got ADD. He prescribes me Concerta, some ADD medicine. I was like, well, I hate medicine. I don't take medicine for anything, but I
Yeah.
was like, well, I'll try it. I never felt smarter in my entire life. I'm like, I'm in like I no longer had to take notes. The teacher could talk and he's like, what is the answer? And I was like, I know every answer, all of it. Like I no longer my recall was on fire. I
It's
was
the
like,
real
this is
limitless pill.
yeah, for me it kind of was. I was like, this stuff is amazing. And I was like, I'm competing with kids in school with this that are on this stuff. I was like, It, this stuff's
Yeah.
amazing. I was like, I want to take notes. I remember everything. My recall is like on point. I can focus. Like I was content in my life for the first time. I was like, I could be so some of the jobs that we stereotype as, lesser. I'm like, I could be a
Yeah.
janitor and be at peace with that.
Hmm.
I was like, I could, be scrubbing. And half of what I did in the military is you scrub a toilet.
Yeah.
And what do they say when you're scrubbing the toilet? Your NCO walks in. He's like, you know, thank you for serving your country.
Oh, I never got that one.
You never did? Oh, all the time. You're doing great things for America. I'm like, come on, you
I
every
always
time.
got scrub harder and you missed a spot.
You're like the things you do for your country and you're scrubbing the toilet. Someone would always have some, smart a thing to say to you
Yeah.
while you're scrubbing the toilet. But like on this Ritalin, Concerta stuff, I was like, I'm content with my life for the first time. Like it is amazing. Now, for me, it had a consequence. I'm 38 years old about. I had never had anxiety before. 38 years of my life. I've done all this stuff, running around, playing tough guy. this medicine opened an emotional can of worms I'd
Oh.
never seen before in my life. Um, and I started to, I mean, it was like immediate, like 3 days after taking it, there were times I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I'm having, I can't, can you say that? Don't delete me. No. TikTok, I'm sorry. I'm on my knees begging. I was like just being crushed, and
Yeah.
my battles are like, "You're going to the ER." I'm like, "I'm fine, I'm fine. I just want to roll over and die." I said it again. Sorry, I don't know how to explain it. So they run me to the hospital. EKG. They're like, "Bro, you're fine."
Yeah.
I'm like, but I'm like, I can't.
It's all in your head, man.
Yeah, it's all in your head. I'm like, but I'm feeling something I had never felt before. I've experienced life, ups and
Yeah.
downs, everything, but this moment, and now I have to cope with these new emotions I never felt before, and I was like, oh my god, it was one aspect was incredible. The other aspect of it was now I have to learn to cope with like emotions that I never dealt with before.
Yeah.
I've never felt crazy, but at the same time, now I can relate to people that are like, I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, "Huh, now I kind of know what you're talking about because sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't seem like a real thing until you experience it, and you're like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
that's a real thing."
yeah. To me, I was like, what are you talking like? I don't understand why you're crying in the corner.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And
Just
now I'm
breathe,
like,
man.
okay,
In, out, it's not hard.
yeah, look at me, it's so easy. What's the
I'm
problem?
a natural.
Yeah, like I would say to walk it off, but there's nothing to even walk on. Just why are you crying in the corner? I don't get it. Like so it did open my eyes to a few things, but I was like, it was a weird time for me because
Yeah.
like I'm like I'd never felt some of these emotions before, and I was like I'm losing my mind. So after like 2 weeks, I've never touched the stuff again, and I still have like this like Pandora's box. I'm like, keep it hidden. Don't
Yeah.
open that box.
Yeah.
It's like I have emotions. I don't know. I would get to deal with it as a kid. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like when you're moving and your kid comes up, "Dad, what's in this box?" Don't open that box then.
yeah. Don't open that box. I don't want to hear certain noises. I don't want to hear babies crying. Like the box starts to
Yeah.
like open me.
We're leaving that box in the corner of the garage.
Yeah. Yeah. You try to burn it, bury it. It just kind of, when you wake up in the morning, like, oh, there it is again.
Uh-oh.
You can't get rid of it. It's a horror movie. But yeah, it's crazy that, that medicine
Yeah.
has a cost, has a side effect. And, for me, that was one of it. There was like this amazing beauty to it, and there was this other aspect of emotions to it. But I never felt smarter in my life. And I was like, how do I compete in the world with people on this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, in one aspect, some of them, if you put them under a lot of stress, then you can beat them. Like they might be smart, but the the stress could cause them to have those emotions. So if you're dealing with somebody that's taking medicine, get them outside and
Yeah.
stress them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you could beat them. But in a classroom setting, and it's just man, it was amazing. Like I could do math in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, I can remember in my head carrying the numbers. Where right now I'm like, I can't do it. Write it down. Where's the calculator? I can't even like measure something in construction, and I'm walking to the wood to measure and cut, and someone's like, "Hey, Rick, I got it." I'm like, "It's gone.
Yeah. I
It's
gotta go
gone.
do it again.
It's gone. 29 and 5/8 is gone." Remeasure it. I'm like, which I'm like, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah.
Measured twice, cut one. It doesn't matter. I just have to get there, and like nobody talked to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and that's just those are my deficits, and I have to work hard at managing that. Anyway, life's not fair.
Yeah.
Equal rights, life's not fair. I'm doing the best I can with what I got.
Yeah.
And you know, if I'm being cocky, I'm just hiding something. Don't look at my box.
Yeah.
Box. Yeah.
I think that's a different box, Rick.
Yeah. I'm sure I offended like 20 people just then. How dare you play light on that? It's fine. Misunderstand me. Sorry, some military humor. If you can't handle it,
Yeah.
bye. All right. So splitting the bill, I think is a good thing. Yeah, and I'm just like, wait till they get to
Oh
Congress.
yeah.
What are we going to do? And I mentioned this yesterday. There's like 69 of them that have dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Most countries do not allow that
Yeah,
in
that
their
needs to
leadership.
stop for sure.
And even if they made it stop, they're like, can you secretly have loyalties to these other countries?
Yeah, but then if you get found out doing that stuff, it's way
Wait
worse.
till they
Yeah,
find out
like
the kickbacks, because we all know you. I mean, Kamala Harris, I guess, is a decent example, right? She went in worth $1 million,
yeah.
and in 4 years, I don't know what she was worth, 26, 32 million.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just like dominate like that? Your salary is such, you make your 10% in investments, but like
Yeah.
with the inside track or kickbacks or whatever you want to call it, like,
The Pelosi trading strategy.
yeah, like wait till we get into those things. They're going to freak.
Oh yeah.
They're freaking now. You're going to see some major freaking because
Oh
now it's like, hey, you're cutting off my gravy train. And then we're like, oh, we're not done.
yeah.
Now we're going to, get a little closer,
Yeah.
and they're like, I can't pay my, you know, I needed all this gravy to pay the rent. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's
It'll
like
be
that
interesting.
meme with like Ryan Reynolds and the Pedro Pascal, I think, is riding in a car, and Ryan Reynolds is just like has this shocked look on his face, and the caption says, "My friend's finding out just how corrupt everything is,"
Yeah.
and the dude's just smiling at him in the passenger seat and says, "Me knowing it's just the tip of the iceberg."
Yes. Yeah. Just to,
It's a real thing.
I think everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. It's just radical transparency that
Yeah.
we're like,
Well,
we know they're corrupt. We know they get kickbacks, but if they give us our general needs,
yeah, but
well,
knowing the specifics and knowing the level to which everything is corrupt, I think, is another step. Like
everything.
it's knowing it in the background is way different than actually looking at the numbers and be like, oh wait,
Now, some of the shock and awe, right? They're really popping your illusion
yeah,
um, with a lot of things. People social media to China, and they're like, China has better tech than we do. Like, minds are blown. They're like,
yeah,
how can that be? We're the United States, So they're freaking out, and then they go through all this, and we're like, we knew it was corrupt, but now they're blasting through the details, and
yeah,
you're like, oh my, oh, and you know, what are we going to do? And it's like they're like, Congress, you all got to step down right now. And then they're
yeah,
like, oh, we need to vote. We did, and they're like, what do you do when you put if that is so corrupt? They have to put it on pause. Can't they even do that? Like, and you thought Trump's impeachment was a problem. Until you see like everyone's impeached. You're like, and they're like, we can't even like manage that. Like,
yeah,
what do we? And then be
yeah.
like, well, we have artificial intelligence to be their judge, and he can judge them
Yeah.
all.
I don't like that route. I like, setting short-term limits for everybody, doing new elections with people that actually give a shit.
Well,
And
odds are they'll be
sorry,
like,
crap.
you just need to step down.
Yeah.
Save us all a favor. Step down with your
Yeah.
dignity.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, will you give me a pass if I snitch?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see how many narcs there are in Congress.
Snitches get stitches. They're like, well, yeah, we'll put you, yeah.
Oh
But it,
man.
it, it, how far will they go? I mean, there's 18 months of this, and we're like a month into it.
Oh yeah.
They're going to blast through, and they'll be like, let's dig deeper here. And it's like, you can blame Elon, but he's probably got like a bunch of little accountants following him
Oh
around.
yeah.
I'd like to know how many. Does anyone
Yeah.
know how many he's got in
I
his
I
marching
don't
steps?
know. But so when he took over Twitter, he cut the staff down to I think like 10% of what they were running before,
Yeah,
and they were still running it. So I think if we could do the same thing with the government, I'm down.
yeah. And Elon's like, what do you say? He's like, a lot of their jobs will be replaced with artificial intelligence. It'll do it better. I'm like, well, interesting. He
I
is
don't
the
like that.
AI guy.
I don't like that.
Well, it's probably going to happen. They're like,
Yeah.
one of the solutions, and they're talking, I think even Elon says, he goes, the solution is blockchain
Blockchain is good.
because the audit, it will be right there and
Yep.
transparent. Everything will be recorded.
Yep.
now that blockchain is going to extend to you and I too. It's going to be everything. So if they use crypto and blockchain technology, they will be able to track every transaction. Like I send $100 to Josue,
Yep.
then blockchain will track Josue, split that, and gave $50 of that to this guy, and he kept 50 for himself, and you can follow it all the way down the rabbit hole, and you're like, okay, there's little bunnies at the bottom.
Yeah.
You can follow it all the way.
Well, so I think that you can run public and private parallel blockchains. So it'll have all the transactions, but certain transactions will be private. Like private citizen transactions, you can make private, but the government would still be able to look at it for sure. Um, but I think everything the government does should be on a public blockchain. Because then they would.
Well, regardless, someone's going to be looking at it. So if ours is more public, anyone could like do, and they'll be like, there it is. And you can see the money split and whatever, and it'll be much harder to launder, hide. Just like the Ukrainian guy, he's like, hey, of the 177 billion, I'm missing 100 billion or whatever it was, and you're like, huh? Blockchain will show where it is and see. It'll show whose hands it in.
Who were those billions of dollars
No more suitcases and pallets of cash getting spread around.
Yeah.
You will see exactly where it goes. And so the solution, right? All this chaos has purpose. Right now, we're like, yeah, get them, get them, get them. Take a step back, look at the bigger picture. It is to introduce, crypto, ledgers, blockchain. The crypto people smarter than me could probably break it down better. But in my simplistic way, it opens the door for crypto to come into the government and track everything.
Oh, yeah.
And eventually they'll be like, you people need to do it too. Since we're going to be giving you a bunch of money, we might as well be able to see it. It's all, however it works. But now these audits won't ever have to be again. And what department is Elon doing with DOGE? The Department of Digital Services.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. The Department of Digital Services.
Yeah.
I'm sure half of you are a step ahead of me on this, but like, hello.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're giggling. They're like, they don't see it.
Yeah.
The Department of Digital Services, the solution to audits is digital.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
artificial intelligence, digital. Anyway, I can't say it any more simplistically.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think a lot of things will end up being on blockchain. I think this next round of voting will definitely be blockchain based. I think they'll probably start using it in different government aspects for sure.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Excel ledgers and whatever they're using, whatever ledgers they have now, they're like, don't look.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to see the chain of it, right? The whole purpose is to see where that goes, and you can track that penny, and then then they paid taxes, and it went right back in the system. You will track that specific token everywhere in its life.
Yep.
Where it went and where it's at.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Right now, I can't even track, like when people come in and pay and go through the till at the end of the day, I'm like, where did this penny come from?
Yeah.
How many people have ever held this penny? Blockchain, you will know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean,
and they could track per token, percent of token. Like I'm not sure how it works. If I put 100 crypto things in my thing and I gave it to you and you broke it off, I mean, can they track every little fraction of it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all on a ledger.
They're like, this one got split, and one day it reunited with its cousin.
Yeah, if you know the token addresses, you can actually look them up on. They have scanners for each blockchain where you can look it up, and it'll show you the transaction details, what wallet it came from, what wallet it went to, how many hashes it took to confirm, all that.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, that's fun stuff.
Yeah, but take a step back. The audits, besides gutting the system, are supposed to make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be like waiting, how do we fix this? What's the solution? The solution, right? They need to bring in some type of digital asset to manage this, all transactions. And they'll be like, well, we also have a problem where it's going and how it's handled
Yeah.
until it gets there. Because, you have contractors. So the government writes me a check. And I'm like, hey, I'm a big developer. And then I have to hire 50 different contractors. They're going to want to see, we want to see where that penny goes all the way down and, and how it's paid. And then you could look at it and be like, why is this guy getting paid more
Yeah.
than everybody else? And he's like, well, he has experience. Be like, okay, like anyway, there's a lot of contractors and fees and anyway, you'll
Yeah.
be able to
Well,
see all
I
of it.
mean that's I'm kind of hopeful based off of what's been happening, but I'm also kind of wary because it all still seems like Hegelian dialectic type stuff, like problem reaction solution. Like they're showing us the problem, so we
They had the
react to it.
solution before this started.
Oh yeah, they definitely did. They definitely did.
The
But like,
solution.
so it all just seems like it's still right on track and nothing's
We will
really.
beg for the solution
Yeah,
because of what we're seeing.
it seems like nothing's really changed. Now they're just creating the transparency for our reaction to beg for the solution. Like
Oh yeah,
it's interesting.
and I mean, at this point, I'm like, yeah, put them on the blockchain.
Yeah.
I want to see it
Yep.
all the kickbacks, all the contract, all the processing fees will be
Mm-hmm.
exposed. This
Yeah.
40-60% processing fee. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
$8 million.
If you're gonna steal my money, at least tell me where it's going and why. Like it's
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's going to be crazy. But I get both sides to it. It is radical transparency. I get their shock. There's so much happening so fast. It's so hard to track it. And it's so hard for these guys to report on it. They're like, there's tariffs and this is really bad for the United States. And like, oh, wait, they're going to counter. They're backing off. We're back to peace. Like,
yeah.
you can't keep track of it.
Yeah.
You report in 5 minutes, you're wrong. And, and it's, and I talk in general concepts because like, I mean, how I don't know how else to like look at this. I'm like, I need it simple.
Yeah.
My mind needs it simple, and I have to take notes because I would be able to. Remember I talked about my memory? I'm not on Ritalin. Otherwise, I wouldn't need notes. All right. Since we've been talking about, I don't know, prepper stuff, we're going to talk about bartering. Bartering, if you have a network, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
If you don't have a network, you're dealing with individuals you may not know or trust. It could get dicey.
Yeah.
You sometimes you just have, there's a give and take on I really need that. And they'd be like, well, give me extra because I know what it's worth. I know what I got.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. You know what I got? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was born this way. Big Roman nose. Um, so we'll just go through and maybe we can discuss some of them. Gold and silver. This one is a little tricky because it has its limits. Right now, if you're trying to convert it, you need like a third party.
Yeah.
Where's that third party going to be um, if things get weird? Right now, it's like, hey, I got to go to a pawn shop or a little gold dealer um, and convert it back into cash. I can't take it to my bank. Maybe I have a friend that'll be like, I'll take it, but what's his cash reserves look like?
Yeah.
He's going to have his own set of problems. You could trade it direct with them.
Yeah.
And do you know what the value is of that? It's kind of what they're willing to take.
Yeah.
You're like, I really need, whatever it is. I need toilet paper. I really need a roll of toilet paper. And he's like, one silver coin. He's like, per sheet. And you're like, but I really need a wife. Like Montezuma's here now.
Yeah.
It has its disadvantages. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
To me, it's a stepping stone. You can't eat it. we're not used to trading it. They've kind of removed it
Yeah.
from our system in a way where people hold it for its intrinsic value. Um, People maybe in a smaller town, or you got friends that'll trade for it, amongst yourselves. They might see the value, uh, but it has its pros and cons. You know, uh, it's an asset. And it could be worth a coin could be worth $10,000,
Yeah.
ounce of gold maybe in that situation. And they're like, I really wish I would have had smaller, pieces of it.
Yeah.
Um, so it has its thing. The junk silver might be a little easier to work with because you
Yeah.
got little dimes, nickels, coins, and you can be like, hey, this is worth $20, this is worth $5, and you might be able to do something with it. But at the same time, gold and silver, um, we're not used to bartering with it now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I
so
mean, yeah,
your neighbor is going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. I didn't prepare for that.
and stuff like that I think is going to be easier depending on where you live, who you know, and like what kinds of silver and gold you have. Like if you have rings and stuff like that, that might be a little easier to move for smaller items that you need than like say a bar.
Yeah, look at my brick.
Yeah.
It's nice. They're like, but no one wants to trade you for a house.
Yeah.
So, and then, what is the target market of people interested in trading with you?
Yeah, that's true.
Where you have your whole neighborhood of 100 people, and then you're like, so I did work with a bartering company, um, back before 9/11, and it was tricky. And maybe that's why I'm biased on the barter thing. We would It was like a real estate transaction. We would make a 10% cut. And so you would be like, and there were people that had things that everybody needed and they got abused in the system.
Mhm.
Your printer did back in the day before digital, right? Your printer, everybody needed advertisement if you were a business. So I need advertisement, flyers, print, whatever. So the printer guy, he was in demand. Um, and then you'd be like, well, what do you need? You're doing a corporate party for Christmas. Let's get you some food script, which are basically food coupons. Basically we have credit cards that do that now, food script. And the restaurant at that time was like, hey, our costs are 30%, a third of the cost. So he's like, I could give you $10,000 worth of food and trade for advertising, but my actual cost is $3,000,
Yeah.
and I can get 10,000 in advertising. So he could trade, but the printer's like, all right, I'll give him the print. The food guy's like, I'll trade and credit 3,000, or $10,000 in food for my cost of 3,000. And then, maybe the printer wants to go on vacation with his family. So you got this weird love triangle going on to satisfy all these people.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we got travel, the restaurant, the print guy, everybody's happy, $10,000 trade. We make $1,000 on
Yeah.
that, 10%. So the printer guy, the restaurant guy, he's 4,000 into the 10,000 in advertising because he had to pay 10% anyway. So everyone's
Yeah.
paying 10% or however it works out. Um, but then you got people that are like, hey, I'm a palm reader. I'll trade. And you're like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
But somebody's like, you may get one person's like, oh, I want my palm read for, $100 or,
Yeah.
whatever, you get some random stuff. And then you got, people that are like, hey, I make wooden spoons for my business
Yeah.
or cutting boards. And so you have all these people. And the hardest part is getting everybody lined up and passing that 20, it's like Christmas. Everyone pull out $20 and pass it to the left, but they're different products we're
Yeah.
passing around. And you got to find what people want and match. And it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. The easy is our little fiat reserve currency is easy.
Yeah.
Barter is not easy because
Yeah.
people may have mercy on you, and you may have the guy may have a pawn shop and he's like, okay, I can barter because I have,
Yeah.
I could take people's one item or an item and trade it out for another. A pawn shop guy could
Yeah.
probably help
You've
you.
already got a stock of various items that people
You go to
buy.
the grocery store and he's like, I don't need your old guitar.
Yeah.
I don't need, this,
Yeah.
your tool. I'm selling food, you know, it's harder to barter
Yeah.
with that guy. The pawn shop you can barter with. Every store has different needs. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's harder than you think it is. So a common currency does make it easy. So if the dollar became toilet paper tomorrow, we would have to adjust to a new system, and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, well, and back in the day, people just didn't barter items; they bartered skills too. So that's where having like a sellable skill that people will want and need is good because you might be able to still just barter that labor for whatever you need instead of the money you're getting now. You know what I mean?
So Josue, being in the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
he's going to have a need for lead,
Yes.
flying lead
Yes.
with wings,
Yes. And
angel
possibly lawnmowers.
and limos. Right. So another item that is interesting to barter is the lead, and I had a it was a side gig. I worked with this retired Marine colonel, and we sold lots of lead and brass, and a lot of it was confiscated um, by the local authorities,
Mm.
and his job was to dispose of it, and a lot of it was good stuff, and so we would organize it, separate it, and it was interesting to see what is prevalent, what is hard to find, and you know those are things you may want to know.
Yeah.
The number one uh, piece of brass is a 22, then 9. Let's see here. Uh, 40 Smith and Wesson is a newer round and harder to find.
Yeah.
45, there's some of that around, and these things are confiscated and taken from random people all over.
Yeah.
So it's a good indicator of what's out there. So people will be like, hey, lots of 38. There's 357. There's some stuff, but not as much. Um, the 223 556, not as prevalent.
Really?
Um,
That's interesting.
yeah, but it was a newer thing since your I guess your grandma grandpa might have it, but mine didn't. It,
Yeah.
that's Vietnam thing,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it came
yeah.
out
That
more
makes sense.
recently, and people do use it and hoard it.
Yeah.
So, but the people getting busted, you'd find some AK stuff, um, but there's you don't find a lot of 44 mag, a lot of your bigger rounds. There's a bit of 30-06 out there, so you sit there and go, okay, if I want to barter with that stuff, and you've got uh what's a weird round people get, I'm drawing blank, but if you pick a weird round,
Yeah.
not a lot of people have something that's applicable to it. So if you
Yeah.
stick with 22, 9, 45, I mean, you could have whatever, but I'm just saying, you stick with the basics, the odds of someone else having that and needing that
Yeah.
goes exponentially up. Um, and and we sorted millions and millions of brass.
Yeah.
So it's like, and we would find weird stuff. We'd find like, we'd I don't know what I can say on these things. Have I been canceled yet? Say yes if I've been canceled.
We still got viewers, so I don't think we're canceled yet.
So you can, um, so Costa Mesa, California, back in the day, used to be a place where they made experimental rounds. And once in a while, I come across something and be like, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Hmm.
This is a, a 12G slug, and it's had a weird crimping in it like a can. It wasn't a can, like a tuna can. It had a
Yeah.
weird crimping inside of it that I was like, what is that? I took some pictures of it, sent it to my friend. He goes, ah. He says, bring that out to the desert next time we go. I was like, okay. and the stuff made basically like a dragon's breath, made like a ball of
Oh,
flame type
cool.
thing. And but he's like that's probably from Costa Mesa when they were messing around, experimenting,
Yeah.
doing stuff. And I was like, I'm like, this round's 50 years old, you know, like doing weird stuff, you know. So
Yeah.
um there's there's always, you know, anyway, we came across weird stuff, and there was stuff that was, you know, very strange that we're like, hey, we got to dispose of this, and we, you know, send it, take it to the military for them to dispose of because it was something you just don't use in public
Yeah.
or in the desert. Like, oh, this one's a no go. Uh, but it was an interesting education I had, uh, sorting it and dividing it
Yeah.
and handling this stuff. And what an education into now, it didn't teach me about trajectory and all that other stuff, but it just gave me exposure to what is out there.
Yeah.
And there's some weird stuff out there and hard to find stuff. But
Oh yeah.
in this scenario, the basics is what you want if you're going to want to barter with lead.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess going on to that, if you have a skill set
Yeah.
or the need for security or whatever, you know, that comes in handy as well. The next one is salt. Salt actually should be probably your number one item, I personally believe in. And it goes back to the theory of in apocalyptic warfare and time, he who owns the salt mine controls the world. Salt is that important. We use it in
Yeah.
tons of chemicals. We use it for food preservation. That is probably your number one barter item that you'll need. And the more natural the salt is, the more minerals it will have.
Yep.
If you buy the store bought salt, that's like one mineral. If you buy the Celtic salt, it's more expensive, like 92 minerals
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Somebody genius can correct me if I'm wrong. Himalayan salt has like 80 something minerals. I think the Celtic salt has like 3 magnesium things in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Something
Like
like that.
um, salt is is an amazing thing, and it's something that is fairly cheap,
Yep.
easy to get. If you need to go find some sea salt, do whatever. But the more processed it is, the more refined. So when they say salt's bad for you, I always think that's the table salt.
Yeah.
If you get the mineral salt that has, I mean, they use it with cattle, right? You put a
Yep.
salt block out, the cattle will be lean. It won't be eaten all the time. You take that mineral block away, they will eat and fatten
Mm-hmm.
up, and then they send them to market.
Yep.
Um, so salt or mineral is, I think, really what you're after. But
Yeah.
salt,
Yeah. It's
food
the natural
preservation,
stuff. Once you get
leather,
like the iodized stuff, it starts to.
yeah.
But
So salt is huge. He who owns the salt mine controls the world. You know. So that's something I think a lot of people probably may disregard or not think about
yeah. Just
very
so you guys
much.
know, Rick owns stock in Big Salt.
Yeah,
That's why he's pushing
I
it.
I control the world. I just don't want to tell nobody yet. No, it's just a great
No, it is.
resource.
That's actually really smart.
Flavor for food. I mean,
Yep.
y- your kids might eat a little more when they have to eat weird stuff if you
Yep.
salt it a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Jerky, preservation, all sorts of stuff. And I mean, you can somebody be like, but you need all these other things too. Yeah, you probably do, but like water filters, life
Yes.
straw, this and that. Water's huge.
Yep.
We're very spoiled with our fluoride water here.
Yeah.
Chlorine, all that stuff we drink that, you know, keeps the bugs out or keeps them from reproducing or what they might be there but don't reproduce it, whatever you want to call it. We're pretty spoiled with our water supply, and we're not used to bugs in it. Um, uh, Having extra life straws,
Yeah.
that might be a good barter item, or just to share um, as you go. I don't know if I need to talk much about water filters and life straws and all that, but that's just
Yeah. Uh,
alcohol.
yeah. Alcohol's a big one too.
If people wonder why I own a bar,
He's stocking up.
stock it up, natural supply.
Yep.
Um, but alcohol, what do they use alcohol for?
You can use it They used to use it as a disinfectant back in the day.
Disinfectant. Yep.
Disinfectant. It's really good. Well, when times suck, people drink more. That's so it becomes instantly more valuable then too.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed, and this may apply to alcohol as well, or it does. When I was in New Orleans after the Hurricane Katrina, and we were living in a tent city, sleeping on asphalt, hard, rough conditions, the workers demanded alcohol. It made the rough conditions more tolerable at night.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're sleeping on the floor, their body aches from working. It makes their problems go away. Then they wake up and they're like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work and suffer in a different way. So um, there's I don't know. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing for morale, for whatever. And, you know, I notice a lot of people that come into my establishment, even though their liver's probably suffering, they don't seem to be sick very often.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm drinking disinfectant.
Yeah. Pretty much.
No one gets food poisoning.
It's germs.
It's disinfectant.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
you don't get sick. So yeah, it's anything. You can make medicines with it,
Yeah.
healing with it,
Yeah.
tinctures, those people that are herbal.
Yep.
And it is something people go to for you know, to hide their problems and so
Yeah.
forth. So cigarettes.
Yes.
In the military, it's a very stressful place. And a lot of people pick up what
Smoking.
and why.
Because it sucks.
So it helps you embrace the suck. Yeah.
Yes.
So you might be like, I just need to relax. Life's not going the way I want it
Yeah.
to. People use it as a thing. Coffee.
Coffee's a big one.
I guess there's food. If you have a source of food,
Yeah.
if you're the chicken lady making eggs, you'll be
Yeah.
quite popular, and you may have to worry about people trying to steal your chickens. I heard
Yeah.
a story someone like stole a bunch of chickens from somebody. I was like, man, cost the eggs. Uh, these are staple foods we're used to,
Yeah.
comfort foods, eggs, pancakes, all the wonderful things that we enjoy.
Yeah. So if you own a farm, you might be able to hire me to trade some lead for food.
uh, see here, food, fuel. Um, Fuel is a little tricky. You have propane stuff, and those store pretty well.
Yeah.
Occasionally, the little bottles can kind of leak. There's rubber fittings that can go bad and they can leak. Long term, but propane pretty much lasts the natural gas. Gasoline, you got to rotate it. There,
Yeah.
there's a hassle with the fuel we use in our vehicles. So those storing it, you got to rotate it. They're like, oh, I'll put fuel stabilizer in it, and then your can condenses and it gets moisture in it, and it's like, um, it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah.
And you forget about it. You're like, oh, it's a year too old. I'm just going to dump it. And you're like, where do you dump it? Fuel is kind of a tougher one. There is a need for it,
Yeah.
definitely. Storing it isn't as easy as you think. Um,
Yeah.
very, very flammable.
If we end up in situations where you need that, I don't think people are worried about environmental regulations. So dumping it is like, whatever.
Don't ever say that out loud again.
Okay.
They just kicked us off at TikTok.
Oh no.
He said dumping fuel.
Finally, I did it.
That's a fun thing. But yeah, fuel is kind of a funny item. Yes, it's needed. Whatever. If it ever went nuts like that, and you had time to get there,
Yeah.
you're a step ahead. But at the same time, it's a stepping stone. Run your generators for the week, a month,
Yeah.
whatever. But at some point, it's all going to start being more and more difficult in that crazy scenario. In New Orleans, everything was shut down. No power, no nothing, no gas stations worked, whatever. You had to drive, hour out of town to get fuel if it was available and come back in. They did have some types of service, but nothing was convenient. Everything was an hour away for several weeks until things started coming off. Most of this stuff is just to get you by
Yeah.
until help comes. Uh, it's is this a stepping stone until help comes? Then there's people that prepare for help's never coming.
Yeah.
You know, there's people in North Carolina. It's like help kind of came, but it didn't stick.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let us live in sheds, and we live in tents, and people froze to death.
Yeah.
Like, um, terrible, terrible thing. Clothing. Um, I'm a little biased on this. I'm gonna take a tangent here. There's a, I don't know if they sell it or not, but open cell clothing. Some people make it on their own. Open cell foam. They get like half inch, 1 inch thick foam, and you're basically a shamu in this thing. It's crazy. You could jump into a frozen river, ice water, come out, squeegee yourself off, walk around for 15 minutes, and it will self like dry itself. You can lay down in the snow and wake up in the morning and you're warm again.
That's crazy.
It's like the only product that can do that. And it's because it's open cell. It just adds a piece of blubber on it, um, and it allows the sweat and moisture to air off. So
Mm,
you jump in, you get wet, you're like, oh, now you're in a wetsuit. Your body's warming up the water as it's evaporating off on the outside. You have, half inch, 1 inch spacing. Uh, it's like a blubber suit. And they do tests with it where these guys are like, they jump in the ice water, they come out, they lay down on the ice. They run around for 5, 10 minutes to try to stay warm. They lay down on the ice, they sleep the night on the ice, they wake up and they're like, hey, die.
mm.
So open cell foam is kind of a funny thing. But I think there's a few people out there that they sew stuff, whatever, and it's practically you're in a sleeping bag that you can walk in.
That's
You
pretty
know,
sweet.
so it's kind of a crazy concept. Now it has to be used with synthetic. You can't use cottons with it.
Gotcha.
You got to be synthetic with it because cotton doesn't distribute right. So, but it's a weird concept that you can
Yeah.
just go up in the mountains and do whatever. Um, but yeah, clothing, foam, open cell foam clothing, and there's other types of clothing to be warm. They put people in uh those big walk-in freezers,
Yeah.
you know, 32 degrees or -4, whatever. They put them in there, and they put the person in the foam clothing, and then they put the other person in like the I don't know what it's not Trex, whatever all that waterproof,
Yeah. Yeah.
fancy stuff we hunt with, the Gore-Tex and all
Yeah.
this, $1,000 worth of gear. They put them on a little treadmill or something, and they just bike. And uh, after 1, 2, 3 hours, the guy in the Gore-Tex is getting hypothermia,
Jeez.
and then the person in the open cell foam is like, "I'm good. I can sleep in here." So it's a weird
That
thing.
is weird.
The difference is when they took the guy in the Gore-Tex and opened him up, even though they say it's breathable,
Hmm.
his sweat caused sheets of ice on the
Oh,
inside of his jacket, so it failed.
wow.
Um, but that is a interesting concept. They also you can make an open cell sleeping bag. Um, it's not a it's stiffer than your regular sleeping bag, but you can do like Arctic stuff with that.
That's
It
cool.
doesn't roll up nice and small like all our modern stuff. It is a little bulkier, but yeah, you can slide into one of those. You could zip it closed with your head in there and breathe, and the
That's
moisture
cool.
won't freeze and it'll wick off. So you could be like your warm breath will kind of warm the bag and then it'll evaporate. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I'll carry the bulk if I'm not cold.
It's light,
That's
it's
fine.
foam, but it's like um anyway, if you're bored, it's something you can look into.
Yeah,
Open
yeah.
foam, sell clothing. But I mean, regular clothing and other stuff people are going to need stuff. So all those extra shirts I have are up for sale.
$20 is indeed $20.
Got a few combat boots, size 10 and a half. If you want me to test something out, size 10 and a half. 10 and a half shoes, feet. Yeah. Um, very average.
That's your next shirt, Rick. I'm very
I'm very
average.
average. Um, let's see, clothing. People want to barter books and games, things that, keep morale up.
Yeah,
Toilet paper. We kind of see that with COVID and other things. Uh, what was interesting about COVID is I was like ahead of that. as soon as there was an issue in China, somehow I stumbled on the news of it. And I was like, this is interesting. And I was watching it. And they're like, hey, this is crazy. And then they showed, China was having trouble with it. And
Yeah.
so I was watching it and I was like, maybe I should buy some toilet paper. So I bought toilet paper. A month later, everyone's like, we can't find toilet paper. And I was like, sweet. I was like, sweet. I'm a month ahead on my timeline. But every week that passed, I noticed that my me being ahead of it got closer and closer and closer until I was like, okay, now we're all equal. Like because like I was like, I think I heard about it like 2 months before it happened, but I was watching it because it was like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
It could be crazy bad or it could be a dud, but the unknown was what had me. I was like, this is like an unknown thing. And uh, you know, but anyway, I was like, I'm gonna get toilet paper, and I was a month ahead on that, or I'm gonna get this and that. But little by little, I noticed the daily items uh, finally caught up to me, where I was like, okay, I'm no longer ahead of everybody. We're all at the same
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
Um, and that's an interesting lesson. No matter how prepared you are, um, there's a learning curve to it. And just because you got stuff in your closet, or you got an extra bag of rice, at some point,
Yeah.
if that's all you're eating, you're going to burn through it. And you're like, now I got to deal with people again. Now
Yeah.
I got to get out there and go to the store again where I thought I can get by a month, baby needs milk or,
Yeah,
like,
well, and it all really depends on how long those conditions last. You know what I mean? Like if you have enough to outlast it, then that's fine. But that's probably not going to be the case if things are prolonged. You're going to reach a point where you're in the same position as everybody else.
yeah. The other thing I've learned is that, you know, you guys that like to eat 3 meals a day, most of your food preps are only good for like lucky two, meal and a
Yeah,
half.
yeah.
They're like, oh, I got like the little bucket. I got 40 meals in here. I was like, have you tried it yet? I bet one meal you'll want two of those.
Yeah.
You ever seen the little cup of servings? Like one serving, you're like, yay, one meal. And you're like, I eat five of those.
Yeah.
And then I have my meal. Your food storage isn't what you think it is.
Yeah.
And that is, something to be aware of.
Yeah, I mean
So
that's a pretty good thing to try out too. Like if you have one of those buckets, like just try to eat off it for a month, see how long it actually lasts.
but a lot of you are like, I don't want to eat it. That's my emergency. I go, I get that
Well,
too.
yeah, but
But
you buy one to replace it, but at least then you've tested it and you know, okay, that one bucket will last me and my family 10 days.
yeah,
And you know that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So there's always, yeah, food. There's always things to learn, the learning curve. And there's no way to prepare for everything.
no,
There's no way.
it's impossible.
I suggest pick what you like, pick what you're good at,
Yep.
and specialize it. Like for me, I know radios are super important. I know all that stuff. But for me, I was like, you know what? That's not what I'm good at. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'll let somebody else deal with that. Because otherwise, then I'm like, what do I do with? I mean, I got my ham radio license, I got all that stuff, but I was
Yeah.
like, I play with it, I put it down a month later, go, I don't know how to turn this on anymore. Like, it's like, start me back at day one. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not my thing,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, if I could just grab and talk, it's fine. But you're setting all these things. I was like, and I know they got apps now that make it a lot easier and stuff, but I was like, it's just not my thing. So somebody else is going to have to pick up that torch
Yeah.
because you can't do it all. It's just too much.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it's really important if you find yourself in a scenario like that, get to know people. Like,
No, no, don't
I
talk to
mean, like
anyone.
ahead
I'm
of
kidding.
time, like start to
I'm
get to know
kidding.
people that have certain skill sets, that have certain interests that might be helpful. And, you get to know them ahead of time and vet them and make sure they're decent people. They're not going to screw you over in a scenario like that. But
Yeah. And there's always going to be people that be like, when it hits the fan, I'm coming to your house. And I was like, okay, great. Please bring a shovel because there's a lot of digging and trenching to do.
yeah, yeah,
Why, what? I go, because you're not bringing much to the table, bud.
yeah,
You're digging trenches. And then when you're done, I'll be like, now fill it.
yeah.
They're like, what is this? I go, well, you got
Organize the gravel by size, shape, and color.
yeah, yeah. It's raining. I need you to sweep the driveway. Scrape that rain off the driveway now. don't even let the rain touch the driveway. You sweep as fast as you can. Don't let the rain touch the driveway.
You got to be a rain ninja.
Yeah. But it's raining. I don't care. Get out there. And it's just community is important. You need like
Yeah.
100 people. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't have that.
No.
It's like I don't really talk to people about that type of stuff. I mean, I was kind of raised, have a little extra food, a little this and that. And for most people, that's plenty. But you also have people that were raised that all I need is some lead and I'm going to take what I want from you. And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be in a position where I have to take from anyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that position. I think, that's just, that's a selfish way to be.
Yeah.
Where if I'm like, I've got lead, I'm gonna just take from, whoever, because um I prepared. I prepared. I have lead.
Yeah.
I just think that's a selfish way to be. I'm happy to share, whatever I have the best I can.
Yeah.
There are people that they're like, I'm gonna come, I want to help, and I'm like, there's some people like, I don't want you,
Yeah.
too much drama.
Yep.
They're, you know, even if it's simple, I'm like, well, we're gonna do 24-hour watch.
Yep.
And you're like, I'm a night owl. Well, great. I need 24-hour watch. You can be night owl. I can't be awake 24/7. It's like you need a team.
Yep.
You need people. Um, you need community. It's tough to do by yourself. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just as guilty as the rest of you.
Yeah.
I know what needs to be done, but I was like, I don't really want to talk to anybody. And people be like, I'm going to your house, Rick, because you have one extra, rice grain that you can share. I'm like, it's one extra rice grain, like just because I have one bag of rice from Winco doesn't mean I could feed the world, like,
Yeah.
but it's like, I'm happy to share what I have,
Yeah.
you know, if that's my thing, that's my thing. But at the same time, it's like it really helps out if people have a type of skill that's needed,
Yep.
have something they can contribute. I mean, even if it's like, you're like, you could be like, I don't have anything to contribute, but I'm a school teacher. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
If you could
That's a
teach,
skill.
if you could teach the kids,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I only need 1 hour a day with them to, put them behind a 22, and then you can have them back,
Yeah.
like, there's, there's all sorts of needs out there.
Yeah.
But somebody would be like, I'm an accountant. I'll be like, well, that's not really what I need right now. Do you have something else?
Well, I mean,
Maybe you could be in charge of bartering. Yeah, you
in
be my
charge of
barter guy.
bartering or in charge of inventory. They're used to counting stuff anyway,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. You can still repurpose skills.
Yeah, good. You're in charge of bartering, but don't be offended when I put you in charge of the porta john.
Yeah.
That is turny of a job as that is.
It's extremely necessary.
It's one of the more important jobs. Disease.
Yeah.
We all make fun of the guys for burning turd in the military. I never had to because my leadership was screwed up, so they had to do it. I did my job. That one time I saved America.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about myself anymore. It's not good for me to brag. We'll talk about something else.
Yeah.
Well, the second time I never. But yeah, the turd cleanup is a important thing. In the military, they burn it with JP8 and smoke signals to the enemy. Over here. Fortunately, no mortars made that stuff spread everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do we burn it? But in the military, they did funny things. We had they digs up something, gravel, dirt, and they put these PVC pipes that go into the ground. Do you ever deal with that?
No.
So you would pee, the men would pee in a pipe and it would just go into the ground. So they dig it up, gravel it, basically, and pee is fairly sterile, So all the men would pee. We'd line up and there'd just be this 6-inch pipe coming out of the ground. You'd stand up to it and pee in the hole in the pipe, and it would take it into the ground to control the urine. Right? The pee. And yeah, it did smell there, it was a fresh minty scent that y'all like. But it was kind of funny. You're like, what a weird thing they did. I don't know if they did more to it than that, but I was like, the Marines made little pee holes. Let's let her rip.
Yeah.
You know, you have your little groin protection on your stuff. You
Yeah.
flip that up, and
Yep.
you have all your gear. So it's like I know what it's like to be a large person now because I
Oh,
couldn't see my thing
yeah.
and pee in this pipe.
Yeah.
So
You're just kind of aiming and praying, like
yeah.
in the right direction. You're just like,
But what happens if in our town, and many of you may not be aware of this, but we don't have like an amazing sewer system.
yeah,
They have big tanks, like septic tanks, where everybody in the neighborhood stuff flows to, and they come by weekly and pump it. And what happens if that backs up? If you live down by the
yeah.
lake, you are at the bottom of the poo chain.
Uh, yeah,
And you'll be like, pop that sewer lid. I need it coming out on the street before it comes up in my tub.
yeah,
You things you don't think about.
yeah. You might end up looking like Joe Dirt.
You don't realize when the sewer backs up and they're not, flushing things. And
Eh,
you don't realize some of the complexities of our infrastructure that
Yep.
if they're not running trucks to pump that or the power goes out and the alarms aren't telling them to go get it, like there are funny things that are happening that you don't even pay attention to in your own town.
Yeah.
Maybe you live in a place with a nice sewer system and they got,
Yep.
they have their little stink swamp. They mix it up and then turn that back into your drinking water.
Yeah.
You ever notice like the water treatment people are like, I don't drink the water.
Yeah. So, like I
They're like
purified water bottles.
they're all holding coffee. I'm like, at least it's boiled, Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's like so much. But yeah, if you could come in and be like, hey, I'm a doctor, I'm a businessman, da, 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 like you're in charge of the turd,
Yeah.
and you'll be upset, your ego's going to be hurt, but suck it up. Human waste,
Yep.
disease, whatever needs to be controlled and contained. That is a serious thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you never have to deal with it, and you can flush away your whole life.
We'll make you feel good about it. We'll put a cape on you, get you a suit that says Turd Boy,
Turd boy, what's your power? Da, 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 da. It would be
I
awesome if
keep it clean.
bald Mr. Caleb earring on your Mr. Clean. I'm sure Trump will write a new executive order like DOGE in the Department of Digital Services. It'll be like Mr. Clean and
Yeah.
the new turd department.
You should be so lucky to wear the mantle of Turd Boy.
Stick us all at a time. No one likes the job. Trust me, no one likes the job. They
Yeah.
do like I don't know if they mix gasoline, JP8, and they put it in it's like a metal 55-gallon drum they cut in half, and they would light it on fire and they'd have to stir the thing
Yeah.
and burn it all to carbon.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
how we
yeah. And
died.
if you like that job, I would question your sanity.
The things you do for your country.
Yeah.
Let's see. Books, toilet paper, batteries,
Yes.
radio, comms, chocolate and sweets.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want a little treat, want a little something. So if you are, Betty Crocker, sweet tooth guy, you can trade that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, baby wipes, dude.
Baby wipes.
Baby wipes.
Yeah, if you can't shower, baby
Yeah.
wipes. That is a good one. I don't have that on
Yeah.
my
That's
list.
that's that's a necessity.
Baby wipes. This time it's personal. I have a friend. He's actually been on the show that he's worked in Hollywood, and he always had these great one-liners of what people say, and he was like, "This time it's personal." He always had something fun to say. He come on the show tomorrow. We'll see. He's my bodyguard friend,
Yeah, it'll be a good show. Stick
and
around.
he wants to talk about conspiracies. I was like, "Oh boy, here we go." As if I haven't talked about enough, but uh, we'll see if Eric joins us tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got yeah, so sweets things, and people like a little treat, good for morale. Play a game, eat popcorn. Figure out what you're good at, what you like.
Yep.
You don't have to do all these things or specialize in all these things, but it's just to get the wheels turning that, um, what you can do. Uh, fire starter,
Yeah.
um, containers. For me, it'd be 5-gallon buckets. I was like,
Yeah.
a load of 5-gallon buckets. You can move water, whatever, go down the lake. Like, let's say you only have so much water but your sewer's working. You run down the lake, you can just like you're cleaning, just
Yeah.
pour it in either the tank, or I'd pour it directly into the
Into the bowl.
technically that back tank you can actually drink if you don't put chemicals in
Yeah.
that. I know it's weird. You'd be like, oh my gosh, boil it if you have to, but it's clean tap water with
Yeah. Yeah. It
fluoride
is.
and chlorine in it. You'll be all
Yeah.
right. It's just weird. I get it. But you could dump lake water, have your dirty water,
In the
reuse water,
bowl,
you could
leave your
dump into
clean
the
water
tank.
in the tank. That's actually pretty smart. Dual purpose.
Dual purpose, yeah. Oh, let's see here. Um, Now, if you have to use a toilet and let's say you have extra trash bags, I did a lot of foreclosures, right? Remember, I've told this story before. I've locked up like 5,000 houses and I'd eat my lunch with me. I was go, go, go. I'm a machine. The beast, Terminator is scared of me. Chuck Norris asked me for advice, but I would go into these places and I'd be changing the locks, locking up these foreclosures, right? Water's been turned off, everything's dry, whatever. And I'd be like, I have to go. But I was like, you know what I have is trash bags. So I would put a trash bag in the toilet,
Yeah.
pull the liner out, sit, do your business, tie a knot, throw it in the trash.
That's smart.
And so that was one way that I could manage some business. If you're like, I don't got no water, I don't got whatever. Now, now don't be poking holes in it. It's leaking everywhere you go. But yeah,
Yeah.
you could tie a knot in it and throw it away. And it's a stepping stone of use. So you could put a trash bag in a bucket and use it,
Yeah.
some way to kind of manage it, contain it, because like technically it's a foreclosure. I could have left it there and been like, oh my goodness, the people
Look
are
what they
gross
did
here.
to this
What they did
place.
to this place. Nasty. But it was like I was in
Yeah.
go mode. I'm like, I don't got time for this, but I can grab a trash bag in 5 seconds and
Yeah.
let her rip. If there was no water there or dried up, or I was there working, I was like, duty calls.
Yeah.
So there's always a funny solution that you're like, Rick, why did you share that with me? Um,
Hey, you never know when it might come in handy, man.
I have friends. this one NCO, he was so funny. He had like no dignity. His soul was gone. And he would tell a story and you had to listen because you're like, why would you share that with anyone? So he's like, I'm in the Port of John in Afghanistan and playing on my phone, whatever. And it falls into the blue liquid, green liquid in the thing. And he's like, that's my phone. You know, like come out with the blue hand, like I'm like, if you share this stuff, you're like, oh, like why?
Why?
Don't tell anyone. You don't tell anyone. People
No.
have dookied in that thing, and you're like, come out with the blue hand. I'm trying to wash it off. My hand's still blue.
Yeah.
Like I was like
Some MRE poo residue, dude.
I was like, why are you sharing this?
Gross.
But he would just share like the train wreck of his life.
Oh man.
But you couldn't help to like him. It was like I'm like I would never share that. Like I don't want anyone to see when I trip. But
Yeah.
there is a beauty when you share, and this is something I wish I could be better at. I think I am better than I used to be. If you share your mess ups with people, they like you. You've disarmed their ego that they don't have to prove anything to you. You're like you tell the stories where you tripped and fell and everyone laughed at you. You share those stories with people, they naturally will like you because you shared something with them. It doesn't compete with them like, what's your job? How much money do you make?
Yeah.
You're not fighting at the ego level. You're like, I'm a total mess. And you could be a genius, but if you share your mess ups, they will like you. You're not a threat to them. It's a simple concept.
Yeah.
Uh, Psychology. It's amazing. Um, and sometimes I can do that. Sometimes I'll be like, I would never share that.
Yeah.
Really, you could care less that someone put their hand in the thing other than, oh, that's gross. But he would be sharing these things that were like, oh my gosh. But you couldn't help but like the guy because like whatever he did was worse than anything you'd done.
Yeah.
And it was just a disaster. It was just like so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, my version of that story would have been like, I lost my phone.
He's like, and then my hat fell in there, and like, it would go on and on and on, and like,
Oh,
he's
dang.
like, and then it rings, and I'm like, hello, like it's just. I was like, I got on my face, and I'm like, my face is blue. It's like, it's just a train wreck. It's like, oh my, like happened.
That's where I got the idea for the Blue Man Group.
Yeah. Now he's in Las Vegas performing.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm like, I would never share that. That's like terrible. But like, if you share your mess ups, people naturally will like you.
You know,
It disarms them. You're not a threat to them. Human nature is a funny thing. We're competitive. It's like, how much money do it's like,
yeah.
you're like, I'm a mess. I fall on my face. You're like, oh, he's not a threat.
Yeah.
He could be a genius, but he's not a threat. And you can't help but like him. So,
And on that note, like, share, and subscribe.
like, share, and subscribe. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, it's a funny world we live in.
Yeah.
But, it's like with preparedness, if you're interested in bartering, find some friends,
Yeah.
make a little pact and say, this week, we're not going to the store. And unless I absolutely have to, but like, I will see if you have something and we will trade and see if you can make it through the week.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be an interesting exercise.
And people are like, hey, I ran out of milk. Can I borrow some milk? And it gets you networking and talking to people about that. Now, you may want to pick a group of people that, that you trust or friends or whatever. Say, hey, you guys want to do this thing where a week we don't, I've seen it done. Uh, uh, it was a church thing they did. They're like, hey, this week, and see what you really need, see what you can go without, see if you can improvise and and work that. And it kind of makes you aware
Yeah.
of how dependent you are on the store. Kind of makes you aware of, who you can trust to borrow things from. And, when that milk runs out,
Yeah. Well, it's got to make for some good stories too.
yeah, I don't know. It depends how prepared you are.
Yeah.
But, like for me, I'd be like, well, I can make rice milk. I can make oat milk. I can make, what kind of milk do you want? Like you can make it.
Yeah.
And for some of you, it might take you to that place where you're like, huh, if I soak rice overnight and then stick it in the blender, if you're in a hurry, you can
Yeah.
just grind it. But if you let it soak, you're just making horchata.
Yeah.
I mean, a little cinnamon, a pinch of salt, a little bit of sugar, and like voila, you made milk. It didn't come from a cow. It's like you can do it
Yeah.
if you want to. And they got powdered milk. They got, I mean, just how far do you want to go down the rabbit hole with this stuff? There's all sorts of things you can do. For some of you, are like, you could make oat milk. Like, yeah, it's in the store.
Yeah.
They just sell it to you.
Yeah. Pretty
Um,
much.
you get a little strainer out, and the strainer gets the grit, and then season it the way you like it. If you're picky, you'd be like, no way, milk's milk. I can't do that. There's people like that.
Yeah.
And try a few different things. Of course, I just ran out of lead. You got any lead I can borrow?
I do, but it'll cost you.
Again, I'm tired of using me for my body.
Eh.
But yeah, if you're into this type of thing, yeah, find your people, start networking, and see
Yep.
if bartering is your thing. Or some people don't like to talk to people, and you're like, I need someone to barter for me.
Yeah.
Like like maybe you're a petite young gal, and you're like, I am not a warrior, so I need to find someone to do my dirty work for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting exercise to find all that out. You know what I mean? Find out, okay, where am I at? What am I good at? What am I bad at? Where can I find the people that will help me be good at those things?
Yeah, because I am guilty of anything that I need is at the store. If I need it, I can buy it. It's on a click away on the internet. Like I get whatever I need whenever I want it. And there's a lot of things I just don't need, I don't buy. But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything's right there. And to put yourself in a position where you're thinking in a different framework, you're messing with the matrix a little bit.
Yeah.
There's lessons to be learned. Um, and you can see where it goes. But again, you need to find people that will do that. You could try it with your neighbor. You could try it with your friends. I probably recommend your friends because you know them and
Yeah.
trust them, saying, "Hey, I'm doing an exercise, and you guys want to join me on that?" Where,
Yeah, they're not going to think you're a lunatic right off the
yeah,
bat.
borrow some eggs. You're like, you want exercise right now?
Why don't you just ask to borrow my leg, man?
Yeah, yeah. I have like eggs in the fridge. I'm like, boy, those are like,
I could sell these on the stock market.
yeah. Is it gone to $20 a carton yet? I think those cases are like
Oh yeah.
39, $40 right now.
Yeah, I bet you if somebody came up with a website to track the market price of eggs right now, it'd be like
Yeah.
hitting pretty hard.
Somebody brought me some eggs a couple times because they love me. Um, but like, I mean, they didn't have to do that. They're just like, hey, we do this. They're like, hey, uh, I gave him a T-shirt, like so. I mean, indirectly, I'm bartering already.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, you need some eggs? I'm like, yeah. He brought me eggs. Like, hey, have one of my veteran shirts, that I make. It's like you can do things naturally too.
Yeah.
You could subtly find opportunity if you're like, I got nobody to barter with. I don't tell them what I'm up to. You can create your own way of doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's part of the hustle, but when options are limited, the hustle is going to be a little more real than you think it is.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that you might have to take care of that you're like, I wish you would have taken a little time to prepare in some kind of way
Yeah.
versus just like, show. But I get, what is it, 90% of the people just aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just going to show up.
Yep.
It's like, I'm not going to deny some kid because his mommy and daddy didn't help him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna feed you, but you're gonna go to work,
Yep.
put you to work. Anyway, I think you probably get what I'm saying. It's not an easy thing. Some people are pretty open about it. Some people are quiet about it. Like it's everybody.
Yeah.
You can be an introvert preparedness person. You can be an extrovert. I mean, I haven't messed with preparedness in a while just because like I'd stacked up before, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, maybe I should go through it again.
Yeah.
Like maybe I should look if I have, if a mouse got my last grain of rice. Like maybe I should look at some of this stuff. But it's like, I grew up in a family where preparedness was like part of what we did. So for me, it was kind of natural to observe things that I was like, "Oh, that would be useful. I'll keep that. In foreclosures, for a while, I was collecting cast iron skillets, those pans. I was like, how cool is that? And,
Yeah.
you know, it was just like, you just see things. You're
Yeah.
like, well,
Well,
if
those things last forever.
yeah, but it's also everything takes up space. There's
Yep.
a cost. If you're living in an apartment, you're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I've also had to move it several times. I was in the military and I had all this stuff. Like, they're, and they allow you, like, hey, you only get like 10,000 pounds to
Yeah.
move. And I was like, I got a wood shop, I got tools, I got some stuff. And I'm like 20,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a backbreaker. And I was like, you got to realize that there is a cost.
Yeah.
And it costs more to move. I'd be like, I need to buy a trailer to move it, and then I'd sell the trailer. It was just like a lot of extra work to maintain this stuff. And you got to decide if it's worth it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like
Absolutely. That's another aspect.
life happens. The military isn't prepared for a guy like me. Like I went in at 30 something. I was like, I got to get rid of tools. I got a dump trailer. I'm taking it to taking it with me, a dump trailer. Like that was part of my life. Just hauling trash, construction, whatever. I mean, the dump trailer was my life. And I finally was like, I need to sell this thing. But I also knew I had a lot of stuff that the military is like, we're used to 18-year-old kid with nothing
Yeah.
that doesn't have a built life, that has, it's designed for that. It's not designed for a guy like me. But it's just, you make choices along the way, and it was like, do I take it with me? Do I keep? It's like, what do you do with this stuff? Because
Yeah.
like it could, it can be as huge as you want it to be. Yeah, I guess is how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that stuff like that is kind of where it helps to have a bigger piece of property where you can actually like store everything. But,
Yeah,
you know,
if you're settled and secure, yeah, it's a lot easier to do that. In the military, they're moving me around, and I'm like, do I take it with me? Do I? Hey, mom, you want to hold my junk? I got like 10 tents. You want one?
I need to sell 30
Yeah.
skillets on Craigslist real fast.
And the army's like, hey, we got an extra box of MREs. You're like, ooh,
Ooh,
that would go nice in the
yeah.
closet. It's like, what? How do you say, like that's preparedness.
Yep.
Box of MREs. Let's go. I'll take that. All right. To return it now. It's like it's just crazy. Like all the things you are exposed to,
Yeah.
whatever. So that's the hard part. But if you haven't, you just pick one thing, what you're good at, stick with it. Hopefully, there's other people that specialize in other things.
Yep.
Or if you're curious about something, just learn about it.
Yep.
It never ends. It never ends because there is a learning curve to it. You're like, oh, I just want food. Well, food goes bad.
Yeah.
Some stuff practically lasts forever. Some stuff you don't prep it right. There's rodents and buckets. Like there's
Yeah.
100 ways to do it. Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. Like there's nitrogen gas. Like there's like 100 ways to do this. You're like, whoa, how do I mess with this? And
Yeah.
I was like, it's not. And then sometimes if you don't research it, you're like, oh, I got brown rice and it's only good for 5 years. You're like, oh, what have I done? So there's a whole learning curve to figure this stuff out. It's crazy. But in terms of barter, keep it simple. Realize that not everybody's going to want your beautiful gold and silver,
Yep.
or you might get the short end of the stick on the trade
Yeah.
just to get what you want. Because some people are like, I know what I got.
Yeah.
I mean, they know that you can't eat that stuff.
Yeah, and you might get marked up for stuff that's harder for them to move, I mean, like, so.
Absolutely. They'll be like, oh, you want a loaf of bread? That's a gold coin,
Yeah.
$3,000 a loaf.
Yep.
You're starving, bud. Take it or leave it. You're like,
Yep.
"Ah," you know. So I see, yeah, I see things as stepping stones. I see things as community.
Yeah.
Um, if you're trading books, I mean, it is. You're like, hey, that just keeps me busy, but you probably be working a lot too. It just depends.
Yeah.
So everything's crazy. I guess I'm repeating myself at this point, but the trade is not going to be what you think it is. I think
Yeah.
is my whole point to this. You can have all the stuff in the world, and hopefully you have something that someone needs.
Yeah.
I've done, like I say, I've 30,000 work orders, 5,000 foreclosures that I've locked up personally. I've been into a lot of houses. A lot of them, when it was time to trash it out, there were things in there that I was like, it went to the trash. Some of them were like fully furnished. And as I go through them, very few things that you have aren't worth very much.
Yeah.
Your Pokemon Go cards, like to me, I'm like, I don't get it. And when society's flourishing, dollar card, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, awesome. I wish I could find $1 million card. I don't even
Yeah.
understand that concept. I don't relate to it. Uh, but when things are rough, all that stuff doesn't matter. No one
Yeah.
needs
It makes a good napkin.
scrape the pan with
Yeah.
the car
Absolutely.
until it gets wet, and yeah, it's like fire starter.
It's like a first edition Pikachu.
Like yeah, when it hits that way, yeah,
Yeah.
society changes. But in the perfect world, yeah, collect your stuff, have fun,
Yeah.
live your life. Um, but if I had Pokemon cards, the first trade I would do would be those cards.
Yeah.
Oh, society will be back up and running tomorrow. This is a great deal.
Yeah.
If these survive the apocalypse, this is
Yeah.
I don't even like to use the word apocalypse. I think most things are just a new beginning,
Yep.
stepping stone. Buy yourself some time, but you know, if you have a Hawaii fire, and you also have to walk away from this stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got hurricanes and fires and weird stuff happening in the world. You got to be able to walk away from it, and you're like, man, I put a lot of effort there. Oh well,
Yep.
oh well, and then hopefully somebody will like you and take care of you on the backside.
Yeah. No, the ability to just say, okay, this is life now. This is what I do now, and move forward is huge.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, all right, folks. That's all I got on bartering. Hopefully, give you a little perspective that it may not be as easy as you think, and it might take a little know-how to know what you need. And if you try to go a week without going to the store, you might be like, huh, if I can't go to the store and I need this, how would I get it? You know, would you ask a neighbor? Would you call a friend? Would you, you know, make rice milk? You know, like how far to the ends of the earth will you go not to go to the store for a week?
Yeah.
And it'll show you a perspective of, oh, we need batteries, oh, we need,
Yeah.
and and then how willing your friends are to work with you on that. Because they'd be like,
Yep.
batteries are expensive. You want to borrow what?
Yeah.
I'll pay you back after the week,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe you pay them then for the batteries. I'll pay you right now. And you're like, it's just a process of learning to see what you need, how to hustle.
Yeah. What the value of things are in reality.
Yeah. You go camping and you're the only guy with toilet paper.
Oh, yeah. You're a rich man indeed.
We'll finish on this, but as a scout, our scoutmaster says if you don't bring your own toilet paper, you come to me. He says I'm going to give you one square. Have you heard this?
No.
And he's like, how you wipe with one square is you fold the little square in force, so now you're like this big. He says you rip the center corner out, you open it back up, you put your finger through the toilet paper, you wipe it up, and you take the toilet paper to wipe your finger off.
Gross.
And the piece you ripped off cleans your fingernail.
Gross.
Boy, I had it rough growing up, guys. It was rough. But like, and that was his bring your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
only giving you one square if you don't bring it. And you were like, oh my gosh. That was the little story they'd tell. I'll clean your fingernail. Like, it still stings.
Yeah.
It still stinks. So, there's, anyway, life's not fair, guys.
Yeah. It still stinks. This has been the Rixican Show.
You have equal rights, but sometimes you're only dealt one square toilet paper. That's how you
Absolutely.
So
Live life one square at a time, folks.
one square at a time. I'm gonna start selling toilet paper. The Rixican toilet paper. Each one, yeah, I have a little design how to use
Just
one.
pre-cut holes.
No, you need that piece to clean your fingernail.
It'll be included in the package.
Yeah. Pre-cut toilet paper.
All right. This is the Rixican Show out. Like, share, subscribe, folks.
Host Sway's had enough of me.